Hello, this is Stephanie Martin. Thank you for checking out the Surrender Live Show. Today's format is a little bit different. I am actually having my first guest on the Surrender Live Show, and this guest could not be more special to me. Jen Todd is with Breakthrough Partners. She unleashes the power and purpose within leaders around the world. She purposely works with other change makers and world changers, and I was one of her clients. She helped me and was very pivotal for me in helping emerge into and step into my purpose on a deeper and greater level. So God really used her to help me get past my own mental barriers and blocks and the things that kind of started hijacking and tangling up my purpose. And she helped set me and get me on the right path. So without further delay, let's get on with the interview. Hello, welcome to the Surrendered Life Show, Jen. It is honestly a true pleasure to have you on sharing your purpose and your message with us. Tell us about you and your work with Breakthrough Partners.
Thank you for having me. Super excited to be invited on this. So I started my business 15 years ago, actually. I just realized it's been 15 years, Breakthrough Partners. And what I do is I am a leadership coach and I am a change consultant. So I have been working with leaders, teams, and organizations at doing large scale change, doing small group team building, and then my true deepest passion, which is really working one-on-one with leaders who know they're change makers. They're committed to some sort of mission or purpose or calling, and they know they're here to make an impact, usually a big impact. So more recently in the last few years, just really honing in on what my purpose and my passion is to help leaders know their purpose and really unleash the power of that purpose and really grow in a whole self sort way, mind, body, spirit, so that they can actually be that purpose out in the world. So that's a little of me.
Yes. And I know I mentioned this in the intro, but I was Jen's client and I loved working with her. She's excellent at what she does, and working with her really did birth or emerge a whole new level of stepping into my deeper or greater purpose, because I was very much out of alignment with my purpose. I thought I was living out my purpose, and there were elements of which I was, but it got really out of whack and really off track. And that is what we are talking today, what life is like, or business is like, or work is like, living in alignment or out of alignment with your purpose and what that feels like.
Yeah. And I just want to say, that's why I clapped, because I loved working with you. It was a complete joy, because you are so, spiritually focused and, kind of grounded in wanting to follow your purpose, that, was like, this was just fun. It was so fun to watch it all unfold. So yay.
And out of that, it's helped me attract just clients that are a dream to work with for me. So I got to experience the joyful delight of what it's like to work with, like-minded or other clients that just you can understand, or that get it and that you could deeply resonate with. on a level that not every person you interact with is like that. So I love it. And all of that was really a result of working with you.
Hmm. Such a what a delight to hear. Just total delight. And like you are such a great example of right, like what knowing when it's not working, right? Striving and working, too hard on things and then having to let go and then things just flow in.
Yes. Well, that's what flow versus force and all of that inspired this show, the Surrender Life show. And all of that comes down to living in alignment or out of alignment with your purpose, because we can try to force things to happen because all of the people and the experts and the gurus tell you that this is how you need to do it and this is the plan. Society tells you this is how you're supposed to live your life, but it doesn't feel right for us. There's something very off.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's one of the things. I just got some little chills as you were talking. So, because whenever I get chills, it's like there's some deep truth being spoken. But this is one of the things about purpose that I think is really important is to take out all these myths that people have, right? Like this whole thing about you can through force, this is the kind of patriarchal masculine way, this is the way we learned, you just think about how our parents grew up. It's like success is hard work, hard work. Well, they were also living in an age of world wars and depression and poverty, where it's that actually made sense at the time. It was you got to just force and push, and you know what I mean? It was this act of will and strength, and we're in a different age, right? We're in a different place now. So the whole I have to go search for really hard and work really hard to find my purpose or to do my purpose. I want to just take that and go, not true. Not true. Now, it doesn't mean that you don't have work to do, but it's work, it's internal work. It's you have to do your work to get rid of all the things that are in the way of knowing your purpose lives inside of you every day. So that the work is here instead of I have to go out and this big purpose is outside of me, right? Strive and listen to all these experts. And it's no, I gotta go in here. I know my purpose best. No one else can tell me what little configuration I need to do to suddenly live my purpose.
Yes. Yes. It's I work with a lot of entrepreneurs or people building something like a nonprofit or whatever it is. They're usually creating and building something, and the striving is big time in the entrepreneurial space. Because we are bombarded with messages about do more, gotta do more, and constantly get up at 5 a.m. Do your miracle morning routine. And I'm not against any of early risers or people with a routine. None of that is bad stuff. But I think we can get so caught up, what I now say, get caught up in all the things.
Yes.
That we get bombarded and buried by the checklist and the to-do list on mission, while we're trying to build this mission or fulfill and accomplish it. For me, that's where I was. I just got so lost and buried by other things. And I see this a lot. And then it leads to burnout.
Yeah.
And it can start depleting the passion and the joy for what you do. And that for me was when I knew something was very off. Something was very off, and it needed to be fixed pretty quickly.
Yeah. It's
I was going to throw the towel in and give up because it was so much work. But it was all in most of it was an emotional, internal thing. Burnout for me was anxiety. It wasn't so much having so much to do, although I kept creating that. It was the anxiety and the
Yeah.
pressure of
Yeah.
like,
The
have to
internal
do all of
pressure.
this.
Yeah. Yeah. And so thank you for saying that, because that is actually one of the number one signs that you are off purpose. So so it's overwhelm, like really feeling this pressure, stress, anxiety. And you described one aspect is it's like there is this internal, right? Like this internal pressure of like, I have to keep going and I have to keep striving. So it's either because someone told you and they're an expert, or you hear your dad's voice. It's like, get up every morning, but it's coming. It's internal voices that are from the outside that are like causing this. And then there are people that actually feel that they also are in like an organization or something where they get that pressure outside. And so it's internal and external. And the feeling of being overwhelmed and I can never keep up. Like it's not like, and this is what I tell people, sometimes you go through a little season. So it might be like, oh, I have a big project. So yeah, for like a couple of weeks or a month, you feel like that it's a purpose thing when you are constantly feeling this. Like you don't even know how you would get yourself out of it, because it's this, you're on a hamster wheel and you're like, I have to do more. I have to do more. I have to do more. And it's like, who's telling you have to do more? Like, right?
Yes.
And it's very difficult, as you know, and I have been there too. To live like that is exhausting. And like you said, one of the other signs is that the things that you're most passionate about, like what are like your strengths, your gifts, or like, you just love doing it. You're not doing those things. Like you might be doing them a little glimpse here or there, but it's like you're not in your passion. You're not in your gifts. The energy is being sucked out of you because you're actually allowing it to be sucked out of you on the hamster wheel of doing all these things, either pleasing all these people or trying to keep up with that little inner gremlin that's like, do more, you have to, like the marketing person said you have to do this, should.
Yes. And it's a balance. And I've learned so much, and I know, like, and it's not that I live this out flawlessly. Like I have to bring it back in, but I know when I'm off, like, okay, we're not going to stay off. Like I know what this is like. I did all the work to like shift that and change it. And so if I start feeling off again, that's my invitation to slow down, let go, tune in, all the things you taught me. So what are some practical steps or techniques or something somebody could do while they're probably listening to this and can identify, yes, overwhelm, constant burnout, energy is completely depleted from them, all of that. How can they start stepping into alignment with their purpose?
Yeah. Well, I think if you're in that state, right, that sort of overwhelmed and like miserable, is I think the first step is you have to become aware. You have to actually do the pause, right? Pause and slow down, but you have to become aware of what is driving you. Because you can't go to like, ooh, like here's where I want to go, until we say this like in Gestalt, which is what I was trained in for my coaching. One of the philosophies about change is that you cannot make any change until you have a very firm footing in the current state reality. Like you're very aware of it. So I think you have to stop, pause, and say, what is driving me? What are these voices, right? They're all voices in our heads, or paradigms, mindsets. We all call them different things. I call them little gremlins, but it's like, what is it that is driving me? So what is the belief that is driving me to stay on the overwhelmed, right, exhausted, I don't love what I'm doing, hamster wheel? And once you get clear on what that is, and sometimes you got to go to the root, right? It's like, they can be really sneaky, right? We have all these logical like logical reasons that are fear-based that kind of, keep us there. So it's like, what is it? Where is it coming from? Is it the truth? And then we have to choose to reject things that are not 100% true and aligned with who we are. Because purpose is really who we are. Like, is it true? I tell some of my corporate clients that if you don't get on your laptop at 10 o'clock at night before you go to bed and do all these emails to everybody, is it true that number one, you're going to be in trouble, anybody's going to care, things are going to fall apart? Is that really true? And 9 times out of 10, there ain't no truth to that. It's like, I feel like I have to catch up, or my boss might email. It's like all very like fear-based. Like most of the time, again, there are things like there might be like some big project that you're committed to for 2 weeks or something, but it's like most of the time we are we are in a pattern that does not serve us, that we have to break free from, so that we now, okay, so what's the truth? So that I can pull myself out of this and start to really like reconnect with my purpose.
Mm-hmm. So you said in order for change to really take place, we have to be fully aware and acknowledge what our state is, what the reality of our state is. You got to face that head on, acknowledge that, and stop pretending it's not there.
Yeah.
We're trying
It's
to
like, I always say, it's like the ugly baby. Like when I do sessions with teams, I always say, the first day is D-Day. I warn you in advance, it is not going to feel good. So please do not expect that you are going to run out of here so excited about your new vision, because we aren't even going to talk about your purpose and vision until you are like so clear and usually like sick of what is going on in the current state. Like, right, this is like the reality of now. We're in the present, so that then we can say, okay, now this is what we want and here's how we change. So like people just can't get to this place of deeper purpose when they're so stuck in these patterns that are just, not working for them.
Right. But a lot of people don't know how to break them. Some are aware. I've had clients who are so aware of it, but they don't know how to break it or shift it or transform it. And obviously that's what I help them through. And that's what you help them through. So you said, okay, so be full awareness of the state. And yeah, it isn't fun. The deal, I'll say the deal and the heal, you gotta like deal with it and heal from it, but be willing to look at it.
I like the deal and the heel. I haven't heard that one. That's a good one. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I tend to like either have like the same, what is it, alliterations, like the same letter, or like rhyme things. That's just how things come to me. That's how I create.
Yeah, you can remember it. I won't forget it, right? Deal.
Like flow versus force, and then the deal and the heel. Like that's just on the back end with anyway, we're getting off track. On the back end, it can confuse like my new assistant. She's like, well, you got like mindset mastery and like all these double M's. Oh, the messy middle and you got all these things. I'm just trying to track with it. Anyway, so acknowledge the what you need to change, and then what was the second part? Again, you kind of did a flow of it. I was trying to break it down in steps.
I did the flow. Well, one is acknowledging it. You really have to then really look at the root of it. So the root of really all patterns that don't serve you are fear-based.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, and this is also, the work that you do with people, right? So it's like this, in the catastrophizing, kind of keeps us in the, I like to play the like, okay, what's worst case scenario game?
Yes.
Right?
me.
Oh, yeah, right. But the catastrophizing keeps us in there, and then we make rational excuses why we have to stay. So I'll just use the example of, right, the corporate person who's working till 10 at night. Their passion is working with people, but half the day they're doing spreadsheets and numbers, and like they're just not doing what they want to be doing. And so looking at being clear, okay, this is not working. Looking at what is driving them. So a lot of times what drives us to not live our greater purpose are fears about money, safety, comfort,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then there's also the fear of success. But let's stay with things that most people can like really identify with. It's like then they come up with perfectly logical excuses, PLEs, right? Perfectly logical excuses, and they're logical because it's like, like I'll start talking to somebody and like, well, I have to stay in this job because I'm the breadwinner and it's X amount of money. And, but then when I begin digging in, because you got to look for the truth, when I dig really deep with them, I find out that they've got money in all these places. They are not near poverty by any stretch of the imagination. And then their like husband has a job. Like there actually is not a money issue. They are thinking so far in advance of a possible money issue, they couldn't even think of leaving a job that's not aligned with their purpose, right? Or going out on their own, like your clients, like a lot of my corporate clients they like have these deeper dreams, like I know I'm supposed to have a business or a mission or a ministry, and it's like they hear the whisper, but they can't get there because they're like in this cycle, right? It's like perfectly logical excuse. But so we got to get to the truth. So really looking at, so if it's a money thing, so probably a lot of your clients, right? It's like, I don't know how to make money in my business. If it's a money thing, so let's look at the truth. What are your money limiting beliefs? Truly, how much money do you have? And like, let's look at, do you really want to do this? Do you really want to do this? Yes. Now we have the truth. Now you can take a baby step, because a lot of times people can't take the 5 steps to the giant leap. Sometimes they can. Like, they're really ready, but like people that are listening to this, you might say like, I am 5 years from having my own business, but it's been in me, right? Like, how long was yours in you, do you think? Like,
Oh, I I think the moment I acted quick. I'm a fast actor, quick, but like it
no.
was stirring in me. I didn't know it was a business. I didn't know exactly it was a business. Like, but I knew I started tuning in at 22. I say that in the intro of my book, even like at 22, I had this vision and knew I was going to end up speaking and writing books and like
Mm,
traveling the world helping people with something. I didn't have the specifics. I
okay.
had no idea about entrepreneurship or business or that you built or created that, but I knew that was what I was meant to be doing. I mean, that was 22, my last year of college. And then when I entered, followed the life plan of like graduate from college, get your job, and supposedly live happily ever after, work your way up the career ladder. It was like less than 2 years into it. I was like, I know that this isn't what's going to get me to that. And so
Mm-hmm.
that was really calling me and drawing me into it. So I started seeking it out. I didn't leave until 4 years into it. So it did take a while. Again, I didn't know it was a
Yeah,
business per
yeah.
se. I just knew I needed to write and all of that. And then I started taking action of exploring like, okay, this call to write, this call
Mm.
to like do something is speaking to me. And then it unfolded. And as soon as I realized what it was, I left pretty quickly.
Yeah, but it sounds like though it was like there was a 4 year, you could track a 4 year period of time where you're following the call, like I call it the whisper, right? The whisper that you're following it, but like things didn't come into form until 4 years later. Then it was a while longer before your book, right? Like some amount of years after that.
Oh yeah, it's a tiny little mini book, and it took about 3 years.
Well, I know I'm on my book I started, oh gosh, 7 years ago, and it hasn't even come out yet. So,
Yeah.
but this is why it's important to say this, because I think sometimes people get stuck because, again, like let's say they've cleared out the crazy fear cycle and they're like, I really want to do this, but it seems like it's so big, right? Like if they're getting called to a book, or like I was called, as you know, like to go out to the middle of Africa and start a women's mission. And like, okay, I tracked that I was probably hearing those whispers for like loudly for 7 years, but like before that, I was like, anytime anybody talked about Africa, like everything in me would start going, like I would get all like excited inside and not know why. Like I would watch, I remember watching Out of Africa like 7 times in a row. Or what was her name?
Mm.
Basinger was like, going to Kenya. Well, and it ended up being where I ended up going, right? So like things can be percolating. This is where the purpose is percolating. But I think what's important for people to know is you don't have to eat the whole enchilada, like just, oh, fly off to Kenya, or okay, I'm going to sit down at 24 and write a book. Like you weren't ready yet, right? You had to have life experiences and all this. It's like it can be lodged in like inside of you. I'm going like this, but like it's like there's this thing, but it's like actually inside of you. But it's like take like a baby step or take the first step. Like it is actually like the purpose, being aligned with your purpose is there's a path that's actually being like, it's like the path is being lit for you. Like all these little signs and whispers and things are happening, but it's like, take a step, like really supporting them. It's okay to take a step, even though there might be 20 more steps before you're right close to the business, the book, the whatever form you're like, because your purpose is not a book, a mission, a role. Your purpose is this, is the essence of you and your passions that can be unleashed in a way that impacts the form. Like you can have many forms of how your purpose reaches people in your lifetime. But so sometimes, again, we get attached to the form, like it's supposed to be a book or I'm supposed to, it's like, well, right now, what could you do right now? If you're in your corporate job, back to the girl who's, up late at night, it's like, what could you do right now that actually is more aligned with who you are and your passions in your current place, while you might be building this bigger plan, working with a coach like you or me, or, maybe they do need to get their finances truly in order, right? Like that could be many months or years, but like to really stay in alignment with the purpose and not, like you say, give up or just accept this exhausted, like numb sort of, I'm not happy doing what I'm doing. This doesn't feel like me, like sometimes people say to me, I feel like I'm living someone else's life. Like that's always like, I'm always like, stop. This is a total misalignment with purpose, right? It's like you're living your mom's life, you're living your neighbor's life, or you're just living out of, like, you're not living in accordance with your beliefs, your values, your, what you believe spiritually, personally, like, this is a cause to like stop the madness.
Yes. Yes. I maybe this isn't the nicest of phrases, but I'm like, I refer to that state as the Walking Dead. Like you're in a Walking Dead, like just
Yeah.
really like you're a lot like think of like the movie or the TV series Walking Dead. Like that's internally what it feels like. Like you're not really alive and thriving and full of life. You're just going through the motions, kind of a show.
Yeah.
And it's no fun.
No.
And you like, and I deep down I think nobody really wants that. Since I've started this, this is a new channel. And I just was curious, like keyword search, and like I wanted to know, okay, certain types of titles or whatever. And I was like, okay, how to find your purpose. And I was just curious. I was like, oh my gosh, page after page after page of
Mm,
so many videos talking about it. So
mm,
that's like with millions of views, 20 million views, like crazy. So like obviously purpose is very important, and
yeah.
people want to know how to live it and how to fulfill it and how to live in alignment with it. So thank you for those steps and everything that you've said, like who is the driver. Um, and I love that. What can you do right now that is more aligned with who you are? Because
Yeah.
I do think, at least I work with a lot of high achievers that like want just the whole picture, very much like how I am. You want the whole picture, you want all the steps, you want your roadmap, and it can become very intimidating and overwhelming.
Hmm.
So taking the step back of what can you do right now that's more to, that more in alignment with that really can help start bringing things to life. Because I started
Hmm.
doing that. I didn't start writing my book, I just started blogging. I had this desire and burning desire to
Yeah.
write. So I started a blog. I don't remember even the domain name and what I've been really, but that was such a divine, amazing,
Mm,
that step led to more steps and more steps and more steps, more connections and more doors opened, and more um, like what I needed to know, or the next resource or the next whatever
yeah.
came, one thing after another, but I had to take the step.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and I think that's such a great example, what you just gave, because again, like people could be doing whatever it is that they need to do, but it's like, what is that thing that will bring you back reconnected to your passion? So for you is writing, like I'm doing that now, but I think back to like when I was actually doing like a ministry, I was like, I want to do this ministry for, women in Africa. I was doing that on the side, I'm not getting paid to do anything. This isn't my full-time job, but it was like, I couldn't wait to do like anything for that. And that's what kept my purpose. Like, it was like alive. It kept it alive while I was doing some other things and trying to kind of phase them out. So I think that's a great thing, for people, if you're listening, is like, and sometimes maybe it's not on the side. Maybe it's in what you're doing right now. It's in your, whether it's a job or maybe it's your role as a parent or in your marriage. Or like, it's like, what can you do that feels this is more aligned with me? This is a passion I have. And like go and do it so you can get reconnected with that. It's the both the magic of like when you're passionate and when you're like, this is, horizontally connected. You are aligned with who you are, right? Like who you were created to be. When you experience that, I got the chills again. You experience that, you remember. Because if you're stuck in that zombie phase, it's really hard to remember because you're like, I don't remember the last time I felt like myself or I felt like excited or passionate or like I was making a difference. It's like, find one thing that you can do that reminds you of that, because that energy and then working with that energy actually can break through.
Yes, so much. And just all of these techniques, or I don't even know what you want to call them, steps, techniques, whatever, like all of these, that's what I use. And you talked about a project, because like there are sometimes where like there are just projects that are kind of intensive focus things. And I don't always love those, because some of the things some of the tasks and responsibilities and things I need to do within that are not the most fun, but I have like, okay, I have to connect to the end goal of like, this will be worth it going
Yeah.
through this for like 2 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever. will be worth it in the end. And moving through that, because I think I get questions like, some people think that the moment there's some tension or
Mhm.
anxiety, that that means they're off purpose.
Oh, right.
Um,
Okay.
and I've had to, like, I used to think that too, but then I've learned that sometimes I think it's like, it's a, it's like 4 weeks. Like, we can handle 4 weeks and get this completed, because then all of that goes away.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, and I think too, I'm glad you said this. This is an important point, right? Is like, again, what's the driver of the anxiety or the stress? Like, right? Is it something that is for your growth? You're busting through your resistance. Like with me in writing, like I could tell you, like there's a ton of struggle, but when I finally like get through all my stuff about writing and put it out there, I'm like, woo, right? Like like, so sometimes it's, I'm growing, I'm breaking a pattern, busting through my resistance,
Yes.
right? Holding myself accountable. That is different than I am like, I have all these made up things about what I have to do or what I should do, and I feel trapped. So that's one of the other signs. When I feel really stuck and trapped, like I have to do this
Right. Yes.
in order to feel like a viable human being or be successful, right? That's where we get into the like worthiness, good enough, or like, again, like I have some standard for marketing or standard for being a good business person. Like if we're being driven by that and killing ourselves versus like this is something I'm holding myself accountable for because it's a big goal I have, it's part of my purpose, and I have to, kind of bust through
Yes.
my
And that,
pattern. That's totally right. That is different. And I think that's important for people to know. You don't give up. When you're over here, you don't give up. When you're over here, you stop and you go, this is not being done for the right reasons. So I can let it go, or I can change whatever it is.
yes. And thank you for that. Because I think that is a question in a space that people ask me a lot and need help discerning the difference. And even I had to be like, okay, am I getting tripped up because I'm following somebody else's agenda, or, all of this? Or am I working through my own mental barriers right now and my own fears and triggers and anxieties because I'm growing and breaking through to a new level? And that brings out a whole other, that's a whole emotional process in and of itself.
Yeah, yeah.
Honestly, I think breaking through, I mean, that's pretty emotional for me. So it's
Mhm.
pretty emotionally intense for me when I'm working through something. Um, but like this recent project I was working on, I couldn't, it was hard for me to tell, like, am I doing this for the wrong reasons or whatever? But now that it's done, I was like, that wasn't that bad. Now I know I can do it, because what was happening was a lot of triggers from, um, and you taught me this, like, not to project our past into our future.
Mm,
Like, a lot, there was a negative anchor, basically. There was a negative anchor. It felt very similar. It was flaring up all these old emotions and stresses and frustrations from when I worked on something very similar in the past that
mm,
didn't work. And
mhm,
there was so much fear getting like sprouted up about, like, I'm just wasting my time. This isn't going to work. Like, I've tried this before and it didn't, like, all of this stuff that I had to work through. And I'm really glad that I did, because it actually was very satisfying and successful, but it was
mm.
intense. So,
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think like thank you for like sharing that, right? Like because I think that is what happens. The breakthrough that it's sometimes it's emotional, it's hard. Like and when you had a pattern, or I love your words, the negative anchor, right? The negative anchor and the pattern. When we bust through that, there are a lot of emotions, but on the other side is freedom. So like, right? So do you feel like you're at like a new plateau or elevation, like now that you've broken through?
Oh my gosh, I feel so light. Like
Yeah.
a whole new like ex- I just feel vast. Like I
Ah,
just
cool.
very free, very expansive, and just a whole new level of power. Like I just feel even
Mhm.
more empowered and more grounded, and excited. And honestly, just after doing that, I'm like, I don't know what has come upon me, because usually I've had a fit whenever I've had to look at technical things and like do all these back end things that I normally don't love. And I mean, I still first and foremost love pouring into people. That's always going to be my go-to. But the reality is, I do have a business, and there are back end things that I need to learn.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
And
Hmm.
so I know, because like this is the vision that God has given me. And honestly, the vision God has given me is so much larger than I myself. Oh my gosh, I'm comfortable just here. I don't know if I want to go there, but that's like just the growth and expansion. And so I really think breaking through this really activated something in me where it's like, no, I really do think I knew he was shifting me and getting me in alignment to the next level or layer or whatever we want to call it in
Yeah.
my purpose, that I had to break through that, all of that, because now I was like, I don't even know who this is. Like suddenly I'm like, okay, this system, this structure, this process, this whatever, and I've never really been that kind of person. And I'm like, yeah, let's go for it. Let's do it. Let's learn it. Let's dive in, because I believe that it does. It feels like it's in alignment with where God wants me to be in the new levels. And I just feel like His grace is here helping support that. But I had to get through me,
Yeah. Yeah, your
get
own.
past
Yeah.
me.
I know, and that's what I love so much about you, though, really, is like that you are willing to do, it's like, this is what I say, the work is here, right? To do all
Yes.
that inner work of like, ooh, what's this like thought I had from the past? Ooh, I have this, like you're able to do that, and you're so committed in knowing, okay, God is leading me somewhere. So God, where do I go? And then of course, it's like you get surrounded with what you need, whether it be other people, other systems, but now it's like right, it's like the seas part, but they can't part if you're all like wrapped up in yourself, right? It's like the hardest work, so I always tell people, the hardest work, if you're going to be a leader in this world, a leader of anything, right, the
Right.
hardest work is your internal work, because you are the instrument of change. So you got to do the work here so that you can actually release whatever your gifts are
Yes.
and follow. So just you're a great example of like really having done that. And I love, like, a lot of these videos that you share are like vulnerably saying like, listen, even when this is your, like, this is what you're trained and this is what you do, you're an expert, like we're still human and we have to work through all of our human stuff. Like that's just the way it is. We're not robots.
Right. We are not. And that's one of the biggest stories I feel like with me. I have to let go and constantly remind myself to let go of the story that I have to have it all together all the time. That's too much pressure. And I think a lot of leaders feel that way. And that's why leadership can feel very overwhelming and lonely. I was just sharing with a woman pastor was breaking down and thinking, I wasn't facilitating this group, but I was a part of it. And she was like, thank you for allowing me to be real and share what's really going on with me. Because if I share this with, people could start to look at you differently. I do think there is a time and place, an appropriate when to share and when not to share, and who to share it with, all of that wisdom. But all of that to say, it can, as leaders, we can have a lot A lot on us and a lot we are responsible for working through. And it is definitely the hardest work is the inner work. So
Mhm, mhm.
what are you working on? You were sharing with me before we hit record a very exciting
Mm.
retreat
Oh,
in
yes.
Chicago. Tell us about.
Yes, yes. And I do. I love retreats, and I haven't done one in a while, but I am partnering up with a couple other coaches, and we are doing a 1-day retreat. And it is really for it's really for women, and it's around feminine leadership, and it's all about being in the flow, really using your presence, knowing your purpose, and being able to have like being able to prosper in that space, right? Like, so it's a 1-day retreat. I don't even have all the details yet, but they will be. I will have them up on my website. So if anybody is interested, they can find me at jentodd.com. One N, jentodd.com. We'll have that up, I don't know, in some short order here.
Yeah, and I'll put all that in the description box below.
Okay.
And then if whatever platform you're watching this on, could put that connected to the post on social media.
Yeah. Yeah. So it'll be great. But I think the way of like really if we're living in our purpose is really having the grace and having the space for us to actually just be ourselves. Like, this is why this driving doesn't work anymore. It's like, because being ourselves means we actually get to do less and be more of who we are. And right, so which sounds easy, but it's harder when we've been trained to be these high achieving, striving, driving, all of that. So this is it's just like a new way of being that really allows what you're called to, what God created you to give to the world, like, can actually flow out. So that's what I'm super excited about talking about and writing about and supporting people to do.
Yes, because it's needed. It's so needed. And while I do similar things, I mean, when you're like way, way advanced in your level of living this out, really, I still feel pretty new to it, but I love it. It's so needed and so valuable. So definitely check out that leadership retreat because I've worked with Jen. I know it's going to be amazing and you won't regret it. So,
Oh, thank you. Thank you for that.
yes. All right. Well, thank you guys for checking out the Surrendered Life show. And it was such a pleasure, Jen, to interview you. Very special to do this with you because a lot of people have asked, like, I mentioned my coach, so I get to actually now show this is the one. This is the one that helped support me and the whole that helped was the vessel to help emerge me and launch me into my deeper purpose and higher calling. So
Oh,
so
thank you.
excited.
That is like just it's a huge, huge, huge honor. So thank you, thank you for having me on. Thank you for allowing me to be on your journey. And it's just like really, it feels like just a really sacred thing. So thank you.
Yes, thank you. All right, we'll talk to you guys all in the next episode.
Bye.